Action.
It was Thanksgiving, 1995. One of the worst days of my life, because as we were finishing up dinner, we had had a nice Thanksgiving meal and the kids were ready to start telling the stories about their childhood and having fun with some after dinner talk, when my youngest daughter of 5 children stands up and says, "I want to make an announcement. I'm dropping out of college. I know it's my last semester, but I'm dropping out of college." I will never forget my feeling of rage that overcame me. And I began an emotional rant at her that I said some things that were very regretful. I'm still sorry today for some of those things I said. But she left the table, to her credit, went to the door and said, "I'm leaving, and Mom, I never want to see you again, and I don't even want you in my life anymore." I was desperate. I turned to my husband and I said, "What are we going to do with her?" And he said, "No, dear, what are we going to do with you?" Well, I became frantic over the next few weeks, not seeing her and wondering what I was going to do, because I knew I would do it again. I knew it was a habit. It was a generational pattern that had been passed down to me about hold your anger in, and then of course as you do that it explodes at unnecessary times. So I began to really study and think my knowledge should get me there. I should, as a family therapist, because the ironic thing was I had a PhD in family relationships. I had been teaching people all these years how to have good family relationships. Here I was, right in the smack dab middle of my own stuff. And so I decided to look at it from, I have to change my brain. This is so deeply embedded in me that I'm going to have to make some changes within my own head, within my brain. And I researched, I looked up things, I started really building a process. And I created a process to get rid of that anger, to neutralize it. And it has 3 steps. The first step is to identify what your patterns are in your generational patterns, to decide what beliefs you have that are holding you up. The second step, because I hold on to anger, I had to figure out a way to get rid of all that anger. And then the third step would be to entirely rewire my brain. Short of a lobotomy, I had to do something really severe. And so I did. I created this process. I started working it and using it in my own life. And I began to see some changes in myself. And around that time, my daughter comes home. Now, I don't think it was because of my changes necessarily. I think it was because she wanted the credit card back, actually. But she was home, and as she saw me working hard on creating this process, she asked me about it. I talked to her about it and shared it, and she said, "Mom, I want to take that process myself." And I thought, "But why would you do that, honey?" And she goes, "Well, because I don't want to be as old as you are before I get my shit together." I began to see, with that idea that she might take the process, that I could impact the trajectory of not just my life, but the life of my family, of my kids. And I began to see the bigness of what I was doing. I began to go to my clients and I began to teach them this process. 4,000 people later, here I am today. And I want to tell you that this process takes the anger out of your life so that you can have that legacy that you've always wanted in your parenting. Today, I want to invite you. I want to invite you to take my process and let go of that anger you've built up. Wouldn't it be a wonderful world if all the parents in the world no longer had that edge, that anger, and they could be that leader in their children's lives? I believe they can, and I have a deep passion about getting this process out to the world. I would love for you to take it and to create that beautiful legacy that you've probably always wanted in your family.
Cut.